This is Feedmaster Gnome, Wittenberg back with the weekly upload. Numerous players in the chess.com forums and in their Discord have been very frustrated by Nelson's aggressive playing style. For those who don't know, he's a chess.com bot with a rating of 1300, so I thought why not create a video on how you can beat him. Let's go e4 this game. See what Nelson will do against us. He's very well known for moving his queen quickly in the game. Let's go knight f3, attacking the pawn on e5, developing a knight. And indeed, there we see it, the queen move. Let's develop our knight to c3. From here, it could potentially go to d5. Let's put it on d5, gaining a tempi on the queen on d8. Very often, if you develop a queen, the queen is going to get harassed a little bit. So that's what I'm trying to do. Harass his queen a little bit. Let's go d4, opening up for our bishop, which will now take on h6. If he takes with the queen, then the pawn on c7 hangs. And if he takes on h6, he gets a very weak doubled pawn. Let's take on e5 in this position. He'll recapture on e5 with the knight, I believe. And then, should I proceed with queen d4? Looks reasonable to me. The idea is that after knight takes f3, pawn takes f3, I would be able to put pressure on the rook on h8. Though he finds a good move, bishop g7. Let's continue with long castles, I believe. Getting out of knight takes f3 trickery. Now I believe taking on e5 should be okay. And then bishop takes e5, and I was ready to sidestep with my queen. Here, however, my opponent does not recapture a piece. This is sometimes what happens with bots. Let's go f4 to reinforce the defense of the e5 knight, and he goes c6, attacking the knight on d5. Let's move it to e3 perhaps. Get out of the attack. And then I'm pre-moving a capture on d4 just in case. Let's put our knight very actively on f5. And now my additional piece in this position gives me a very big advantage. Let's take on d6, I believe. Trying to trade off queens. Very often when you've got more material than your opponent, it's favorable to trade off pieces. So this is what I'm trying to do here. And based on this logic, taking on e5 by my opponent was also not the best move in this position. Bishop b7, getting the bishop out. In this position, let us grab the pawn on h6. And now, not only are we taking a pawn, we're also removing the shelter of the black king here. Now we could retreat, having collected a pawn on h6. Let's develop our bishop to e2, let's say. And now with an additional piece, we could trade off queens as well, why not? Put the knight on d6, a very good square. With additional piece, we should be able to win without any issues. Rook f1, trying to simplify further in this position. Bishop g4, attack the pawn on e6. Okay, he simplifies. This is not ideal by him, and he lets me take on e6, which will make my conversion even simpler. Let's get the rook into the game, as well as gobble up the pawn on a7. And now I believe my opponent is in some very serious trouble. Now let's try and see if we could checkmate this king. g3, taking away both the f4 and h4 square of the king at the same time. And now I see a mate into rook g7 check. King h5, bishop g4 checkmate. Alright, I hope you made it this far in the video, and if you did, why don't you like, subscribe, and maybe share the video with someone. This really bumps me up in the algorithm. And on a final note, if you enjoyed the way I explained the moves, I also do this very often on Twitch. I stream 4 times a week there, 19 o'clock Central European Time Thursday, and 11 o'clock Central European Time in the weekends. Feel free to check it out. See you next Tuesday.